Hi, this is Gio for footballbook.ca. Last year, I did a video called Riverboat Gambler, where I compared the New Orleans Saints, who had just won the Super Bowl, to the St. Louis Rams' greatest show on turf teams from 10 years before that. In the video, I explained how the Saints copied the Rams style all the way to the Super Bowl win. Neither team had particularly good defenses, but they could almost score at will. And although they lost a lot of shootout games, they had trouble making the playoffs until they changed their defensive philosophy. What they did defensively was stop playing a bend but don't break style of defense and adapted a more risk-reward system where they would see their cornerbacks jumping routes, trying to intercept the other team's passes, even though they risked giving up touchdowns. With their high-powered offenses, they'd just come back and score anyway, and it would just be a matter of if the other team could keep up with them. But if they picked off the opponent's quarterback and ran it back for a touchdown, the other team would be down by 2 scores, and it would be game over. Well, that's what St. Louis did when they won Super Bowl 34, and it's what the Saints did 10 years later when they won Super Bowl 44. The year before the Saints won, they had only 15 interceptions in the regular season, which was about middle of the pack, and they had 0 interception returns for touchdowns. That changed the following year when they changed their defensive philosophy and became riverboat gamblers. They shot up to 26 interceptions, which was the 3rd best in the league, and returned 5 of them for touchdowns. In the playoffs, they tied for the lead with 4 interceptions and had the only pick 6 in the postseason, that memorable play where cornerback Tracy Porter, in textbook riverboat gambler-style defense, jumped the route, picked off Colts quarterback Peyton Manning, and returned it 74 yards for the score to seal the deal and to win the Super Bowl. Now, I suggested at the start of last year that my team, the Minnesota Vikings, employ the riverboat gambler style defense. After all, they came within an overtime loss in the NFC Championship game to the Saints, who we all know went on to win the Super Bowl. They started last season with a high-octane offense led by gunslinging quarterback Brett Favre, and they had arguably the best running back in the NFL with Adrian Peterson, a great receiving corps, and a pretty good offensive line. I said in my video, the only thing the Vikings were missing was a riverboat gambler-style defense. Who cares if the other team scored? The Vikings offense was going to get it right back, and if they did pick one off for a score, it would be game over. Well, the Vikings never did adopt the riverboat gambler defense, and they had other issues as well. Favre he was never really healthy, and then he had that texting scandal. Wide receiver Percy Harvin missed games with migraines, and Favre's go-to receiver from the previous year, Sidney Rice, missed half the season after having hip surgery, and the Vikings had a disastrous year. But it doesn't mean that other teams weren't riverboat gamblers. The Green Bay Packers had been near the top of the league in interceptions for a couple of seasons. They did the same thing last year, but really cranked it up in the playoffs when they led all postseason teams with 8 of them, while returning 3 of them for scores. Actually, they were the only team to return any, and they got 3 of them in 3 different games. Let's look at all 3 of them. The first one came in Atlanta during the NFC divisional matchup. With 10 seconds to go in the first half, and the Falcons trailing by just 7 points at the time, Atlanta had the ball at the Packers' 35-yard line, and were just trying to get a little closer for a field goal attempt. Atlanta had just called their 3rd timeout, so other than trying a Hail Mary, they really had no other options. Packers cornerback Tramon Williams knew that if Atlanta quarterback Matt Ryan was going to throw a short pass to wide receiver Roddy White, then White had to get out of bounds because Atlanta wouldn't have had enough time to get the field goal unit on to the field, and White wasn't going to run through the entire Packers defense to the end zone. So what did Williams do? He jumped the route, knowing White could only get about 10 yards maximum before he had to get out of bounds. But if he picked it off, he had a clear shot at the Falcons' end zone, which is exactly what happened, and instead of being up by 4 points at the half, the Packers led by 14, and the Falcons never recovered. 1 week later in the NFC Conference Final, the Packers dropped back big defensive lineman B.J. Raji into coverage of all things. Raji jumped a route, and the big man rumbled into the end zone for what turned out to be the game-winning score. And in the Super Bowl, although it wasn't exactly riverboat gambler defense, this 37-yard interception return by safety Nick Collins off of Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger gave the soon-to-be champs a 14-point lead at the time in a game that was eventually won by just 6 points. It should also be noted that the Packers intercepted the Eagles in the end zone with just over 30 seconds to go in the other playoff game to squeak out that win as well. So, you can see how important making interceptions are, especially in today's pass-happy NFL. When you can pick off the other team's quarterback and run it back for a touchdown, the results are huge. Remember, I showed you New Orleans' game-winning interception against Manning and the Colts. The year before that, Pittsburgh intercepted Arizona quarterback Kurt Warner on the last play of the first half and returned 100 yards for a 14-point swing, which was the eventual difference in that Super Bowl game. Those plays are game changers. They deflate one team and fire up the other. They're the difference between Super Bowl winner and Super Bowl runner-up. So, who's going to be this year's Riverboat Gambler team? A team with an explosive offense but a lousy defense that with just a change in philosophy might come out of nowhere and win the championship. I don't think it will be Green Bay again this year because opposing offensive coordinators are going to be watching the champs, just like they did last year with New Orleans, who, by the way, sank to the bottom of the NFL in the league with a league low 9 interceptions last year. That's probably why the Rams ever only won one Super Bowl. It's hard enough as it is to repeat, and the Riverboat Gambler defense doesn't have a very long shelf life. But there are other teams that could possibly give it a try. In the NFC, the Falcons and Eagles have a lot of firepower on offense and could definitely benefit from being Riverboat Gamblers. And don't forget, Philadelphia picked up free agent Nnamdi Asomugha, so they'll be really good against the pass this year. In the AFC, the Colts still have Peyton Manning, so they might want to try a little bit of Riverboat Gambler defense themselves. But my money is on the Houston Texans, who remind me a lot of New Orleans just before they won. Quarterback Matt Schaub leads a talented offense that has really been undone by a terrible defense, and that's why they've been on the outside looking in. But with some new recruits on the defensive side of the ball, and with the hiring of defensive coordinator Wade Phillips, we should see a dramatic turn to the upside for the defensively challenged Texans. Phillips has turned bad defenses around in Buffalo and Dallas, and he should do it again this year in Houston. Will he go Riverboat Gambler defense? I don't know, but I'll be watching. And you should too. Let's all keep our eyes open to who's leading the NFL in pick sixes this year. Chances are it will be a team using the Riverboat Gambler defense. Chances are they may win the Super Bowl this year. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you catch my other videos. Just go to my YouTube channel, gioknows, or you can find them on the website, www.footballbook.ca, in the forum section under articles, and they'll be there. And I hope you join me on the website where we have all kinds of information that you need to have if you're serious about winning money on football. Hey, we're all here together, so let's help each other out. I'm Gio for footballbook.ca. Let's take the man's money.